Hello, hello, and welcome to this episode of the Be Free podcast. So, this is a continuation of our sober series. So, this is part three and a little bit of a discussions in and around alcohol-free living. I have my beautiful friend, soul sister, co-founder of Soul Sanctuary with me, and woman of many talents, Susan Findlay, here with me today. So, hey, Suze, how are you?
Hello, thank you for that introduction. I'll take that. Women of many talents, I like that.
Yeah,
Also,
do you want to do a little intro as to actually what some of these talents are, like who you are, all that
sure.
jazz?
Okay, thank you for having me, and I'm so happy to talk about my journey on sobriety. So my name is Susan Finlay, and I am a transformational life coach and trained in multiple modalities and techniques. And I largely work with people who are really struggling with their mental and emotional health. I'm trauma informed. I work with an approach called compassionate inquiry, which is Dr. Gabor Mate's approach to childhood developmental traumas, which I believe is really at the root of most of our dysfunctional patterns in adulthood. So I really help people free themselves from the confines of their thoughts, their feelings, their emotions, so they can break out of the old patterns and move free, feeling happy, fulfilled, and excited for the future. I obviously have my wonderful little membership with you, Soul Sanctuary. So whilst I really support people who have had difficult past, I love all things spirituality, and I actually believe that a healing journey naturally falls into a spiritual journey. I feel like the two are really intertwined because you start to elevate your consciousness and you start to tune into all that is. And so, yeah, that's a little bit about what I do. And yeah, I think that covers it.
Yeah, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. I love this because you've got so many strings to your bow, and I love how they all weave together to support people now. Yeah, in such an incredible, incredible way. So, I invited you today just to kind of share a little bit about your sober journey, and I know there's like so many people are curious about this right now, and there seems to be kind of this wave of like alcohol-free drinks and like it's so much more commonplace. Like, so both Susan and I are Scottish, and Scottish typically Scottish people are big drinkers. Like, it's part of our culture. And I did touch on it in my podcast last week. That Susan used to be a bit of a party animal like myself. So yeah, Susan, why did you decide to go alcohol free?
Okay, so I'll tell a bit about my drinking life, right, just quickly, because I am still shocked that I am sober because I was a massive drinker. It was a huge part of my identity. And I
Mhm.
never in a million years thought I would ever stop or be able to stop. So every day I'm like, holy shit, I've done it. And
Mm.
every day I'm also like, maybe I'll have a drink today. It's almost like I've given myself permission to be in that not so strict mindset that, maybe I will have a drink one day. That's not everybody though. So I worked in corporate business. I had a senior position in the Scotsman newspaper, and we used to be entertaining clients all the time. I used to get invited to everything. We used to get tickets to the rugby and all sorts of award ceremonies and things. So it was a big part of my job, and it was also a big part of my life. So I worked really hard and I partied even harder.
Yeah.
And I could go out and be the last person standing. I could go out on a Tuesday night and be out till 3 in the morning and then be at my desk at 9, still
Mhm.
probably bleary-eyed and bladdered from the night before and can't quite remember getting home. And I probably drank like that up until I stopped drinking at 47. So I had struggled for years because I hated who I was when I was drunk, because I got so drunk and I was so unconscious to things I was saying. That's what drink does, right?
Yeah.
You'd say things you don't mean, and you behave in ways that's not you. And I hated my drunk self. I really, really hated my drunk self. And so every single time I would go out and get blutered, good Scottish word there.
Mhm.
And then I wouldn't remember getting home. Maybe I'd get home at 9 in the morning. Maybe I'd get home at 4 in the morning. Who knows? And then I would be in a whole world of despair and shame and regret and guilt. And I lived on my own. I didn't have a partner. So I would be in my living room with a blanket over me with shitty food and the blinds closed. And I would be in despair. And my friend used to phone me, like she was amazing. She used to say to me, "Do you want me to come and sit with you?"
Oh,
Like single at this point, and it was horrible. And I used to do this on repeat. So I would go Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, where I hated myself, was torturing myself. I was being horrible, the things I was saying. And then, of course, Wednesday would come along, and you're like, I'm out of that. And then Thursday, be like, oh, getting ready for
mini
camp.
Friday.
Are we going out? And so it was just this, oh my God, this high. Like I used to love the Friday buzz going out, like cocktails or Prosecco on an empty belly always, because that gave you the best done. And then like back to Monday just being so down. So it was like highs and lows, and the highs were high and the lows were low. And I never found a way out. I thought, how can I do this? And eventually, what happened was I was reading a book. So I was studying compassionate inquiry, and one of the recommended reading books is The Presence Process. And I was doing it in a group. And in the book, it invites you to abstain from drinking. And I thought, I'm going to try that. Like the process, I think, was, can't remember, maybe 9 weeks. I thought, I'm going to try that. Never in my life thinking I would be able to do it. I thought I'll last a week or two. Like I've done dry January, and that's the most I'd ever done. And Scott was doing it with me. So he agreed he was going to do it with me. Now, as that week was coming up to the last night we were going out, Scott was starting to waver. And I knew he would never do it because he had less willpower than me, was my perception. So on this last night we were having a drink. We went out with friends in Edinburgh, had a great night. We got a taxi home to Retrained where we live. So it's a small town. And we got out the taxi on the main street to go and get some chips. And we met Scott's godson. And so we got pulled into the local pub. So we were in there, and there was a girl so my sister-in-law's goddaughter was there as well. They're now a couple after that night, which is
Oh.
but we were on the shots with them, all the young team, and we left there absolutely cannot remember. So fast forward, coming along the road, Scott fell, burst his eye open. The two of us are steaming, lying on the road. I couldn't get him out up because he was a dead weight. The neighbours happened to pass us, help us get us up. We got him down to the house. His eye won't stop bleeding. All the neighbours are in from the street. The police end up at the door. We get blue lighted to the hospital, and Scott is in the hospital overnight. And I'm there at 6 in the morning, still so drunk. Like, how did I get home? I was covered in blood. And like Scott was off his work for a fortnight with that. He had two black eyes, he had problems in his face, and he was like, that is it, I'm done. So I was already doing the book. He was wavering, and it felt like this happened for it all to fall into place. And then I just never went back. I never actually finished the book. Didn't
Mhm.
finish the presence process, but never started drinking again. And I've actually just, I'm in awe at myself that I've gone this far because
Mhm.
it's been actually
Okay.
so easy, and it's felt quite effortless.
Mhm.
But I don't know if it's because I was craving it for so long that when it actually happened, it was just like, oh, this is good, this is good, this is good. And my lifestyle had changed, like I'd moved in with Scott, and I was working from home. I was doing a coaching job, and I didn't like the fact that I was maybe working with people in the local area, and they would maybe see me or would have seen me in that state. That was another thing that was really kind of present for me. I thought, I don't want to be that person who is doing, quite a serious personal job, but is out rolling about the streets on a Saturday night. And yeah, so it felt really effortless and easy for me. And there's been
Did
a
you face
couple,
any challenges along the way? Would you say, did you find it, have you found it challenging at any point?
yeah, I think so I feel a bit boring sometimes now. Like I still go out with my friends, whenever they're meeting, I still do what I would have done. I went on a hen weekend to Liverpool for my best friend's hen, and it was actually a bit easier than I thought it would be, but I did feel on the periphery. because they're all getting drunk and all the bants are starting to happen. And whilst I was still in it, I did feel there was a wee bit distance between me and them. So I do feel like a bit boring, and I do feel like my fun came from drinking, like the buzz and the excitement and the joy and the happiness. And I feel like I'm never going to have that high again. Well, unless I go back to it. But there were very high highs, and I feel like I'm still searching for that.
Yeah.
Recognize that I'm probably never going to get it because I don't have the low and I don't have the high, but I'm just really level all the time. So I'm happy with that, but I really miss the
Yeah.
get.
And it's maybe just finding that next thing that brings you that sense of joy and excitement. Like I know like when I first like last year did paddle boarding and like cold water swimming and doing those things, I was like, oh my God, this is freaking ace. Like old me probably would have done it drunk, but like probably wouldn't have done that sober, you know? And yeah, like just finding those new interests, right? Because it's such a huge part of our identities.
And I do a lot of that stuff. And I think that's the other thing actually that's been perhaps a challenge is the identity. Like, who am I if I'm not the party girl? Who am I if I'm not leading everybody astray? Who am I if I'm not um encouraging everybody at family gatherings? Like, I think my family feel a wee bit bereft that that part of me is no longer there. I'm sure if I got back on it, they would be saying, "Oh, get her back off the drink."
Yeah, I'm laughing. Like, can you imagine if we'd like met each other? Well, I stopped drinking 6 years ago. Like before that, oh my God. Like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
party Susies.
Would have been wild. So, and there's been like we were in Berlin 2 weekends ago. Like that's going on holiday without alcohol
Mm,
is a revelation because what you realize is how consuming alcohol used to be when you went away. It was everything that you did next pub. Oh, shall we go in here? Whereas now
yeah.
you see so much, you cover so many things. We were so close to having a drink in Berlin, so close. And Scott's always been adamant he'll never drink again. Whereas I was like, nah, I'm not stopped. I think I might at some point, but I think that feels like it's less control, and I don't know if that's helping me keep going.
I've said
But
the
I would,
same, and I'm 6 years on, and I still say the same.
yeah,
Like,
yeah,
I could, if
but-
I wanted to, I
yeah,
would, but I don't. So,
exactly. So yeah, that was really close. And Scott was swithering, like I think he was just wanting me to say, okay, let's do it. And he would have been like, yeah, let's have a Peroni. But
mhm.
we managed to talk ourselves out of it. And I'm so glad that we did because the fallout from it would have been
Yeah,
hell on earth.
well done. Well
Yeah.
done.
It has been a couple of times, but probably only a handful.
Mhm.
Um, One night I was in Edinburgh at 4 o'clock going to my old flat. And I came home to get Scott because we were going back up to paint it. And I was like, oh my God, I want to get on it because it was that sort of Friday feeling, just that it's like a
Um,
willpower. It's like if you can hold the energy that's in your body for 1 hour, gets you past it. There was another time where in fact, this was the same night. So I was getting Scott into a frenzy in the kitchen. I was like, oh my God, I really want to get on it. Like I want to have a drink. And then we're like, let's go to B&Q and get some paint and it'll Thank you. We spent a good slow time in there buying the paint. And by the time we got into Edinburgh, it was like, yeah, let's just get a pizza.
Brilliant. And I think it's those little triggers. And I spoke about that in my podcast last week. It was that time before Stuart came home from work and I would have a wine just as the kids, getting the kids dinner and to get through that final, final stage, and yeah, that Friday night buzz and how, what do
Well,
you do?
I've recognised that as holding a period of time, for me, it's probably about an hour where I
Mm,
feel it. And knowing what I know and how I work with clients, compassion, inquiry, and understanding polyvagal theory and the nervous system, as if you can go into your body and feel the sensations that are happening and allow yourself to be with them and
mm,
just hold that energy. It's going to fade, it's going to pass. And then you're just like, right, I'm good, I'm done now, I'm over it. Or the
mm,
other good thing is play out the aftermath. So, like, that's what we did in Berlin. So let's say we do have a drink tonight. How are we going to feel tomorrow with a hangover? How are we going to feel about actually we've done almost 2 years and we've given up on ourselves. So we started to play out what that would look like, and then we're like, nah, let's not do it. So
Hmm.
that's been a couple of strategies that I certainly have found have worked for me when I've wanted to have a drink.
Amazing. That's so helpful. I think for anybody that's listening who kind of wants to explore this. And then from the positive side of things, what has blossomed from this experience for you?
So just having that constant state of being fine, like I never have any dips anymore, really. I never feel overly down, like the low lows. I'm never like I always used to be really embarrassed about things I would say. I never say anything wrong or out of turn or anything like that because I only did it when I was drunk. So there's never any, you used to have that fear at the back of your mind. There's no fear. Like, oh my God, the fear.
Yeah.
That was chronic. So there's no fear. I feel what it is bringing up actually is I'm seeing all the things like as you know because we did this in our soul sanctuary this month was all around getting in touch with your emotions, and as part of that I shared the nervous system tracker that I have used myself to track my own nervous system. And so what I'm now seeing is patterns of anger that I never knew I had. I didn't know I was angry. Patterns of shutdown, like going into a freeze type state. Didn't think I did that either. No, actually, only just this week. This has all happened in real time. That only just this week, I felt stressed at something. Someone really activated me. And I went to bed, couldn't sleep. I actually wrote an email about this the other day. Couldn't sleep, and all these memories were flooding into my system at times where I was anxious. And I was like, I never knew that I had experienced anxiety. And I have, but I've just been so out of awareness and probably either getting drunk or in a hangover that I had no awareness as to what was happening in my body. So I'm really, really getting in tune with what's happening in my body, noticing my patterns of emotions and behaviors, and that's like been a complete revelation. So I feel like my spiritual awakening has gone at rapid space in the last wee while since actually really tracking, getting more conscious and getting more curious. So yeah, just having more time free in my mind. Like that's the other thing. Everything revolved around drink.
Yeah.
Friday nights, where you're going to a restaurant, who's going to be driving, how we're going to get there, how we're going to get home. And so it's just easy. Life's just easy. It's
Yeah.
just so it was such a burden. You don't realize how much of a burden it is in so many other ways than when you're out of it.
Hmm.
It's just freeing, so freeing.
Hmm. Awesome. Ah, that's so yeah, powerful. And I guess a lot of people probably wouldn't think about that. Like as you mentioned there, that the burden of alcohol as opposed to just like, yeah, the fun times and those kind of things. I think it's really interesting like hearing your and Scott's take because obviously like the first episode in the series was about alcoholism, whereas I think for many people now the sober life is more about a lifestyle choice and embracing that consciousness and the health benefits of being alcohol free. And you've mentioned like obviously all the mental, emotional, relationship, like all work, like it just affects everything, right?
Absolutely. I think you don't realize how consuming it is until you're out of it and you're like, God, every single thing needs to revolve around alcohol.
Mhm.
And even the money, like we often buy an alcohol-free cocktail, it's like 10 quid. You're like, imagine if we were still drinking, like the price is crazy now. We need a
Totally.
more to pay for it.
Yeah.
So even money, like, I don't spend anywhere near as much money as I used to. That's another positive thing. Like, I can have 20 quid in my purse all week and not spend that. So actually, that's not true.
Yeah, I'm like listening here, like I know that you love booking yourself on a wee spiritual retreat or a like a little course, or you just like spend on different things.
Yeah, definitely. So yeah, it's the best thing I've ever done, but I do miss the highs, the carry on, the banter, but it was always just too extreme. Like I always took everything to the limit, and um that is a part of me that I do miss, that fun time Susan. But I'm still the same. I can still go out and enjoy myself. I still go and have a dance, do all the things. I'm just not as wild as I used to be.
Yeah. Taming the wildness. Just
Yeah.
channeling it in different ways, maybe.
Yeah, perhaps. And I think that I would love to come to a point where, like, I met a friend the other day and she's like, "Oh, I was in London and I had a drink and it was great fun." She said, "But that'll be me. I won't have another one for 6 months." That would be the dream. But I just know I don't have it in me. I'm like an all or nothing. That's the kind
Yeah.
of personality type that I have when it comes to pretty much everything. I'm all or nothing.
It's funny because I was saying that in my podcast interview that like Stuart said to me in many like family occasions, like, why don't you just have a glass of wine or like a prosecco or something? I'm like, or we would have when we were away on holiday, like you're saying, so we were away all inclusive, beautiful, beachy holiday. And I just got so much fear around it. I thought this is not the time and the place to suddenly like you know, get
That was
on
it.
it in front of your whole family in an all-inclusive. I was like, yeah, I don't think this is the right time. So,
Yeah.
awesome. So, like a lot of people listening to this podcast are particularly interested in mental health, emotional, spiritual well-being. What kind of things do you personally use to support yourself? And I know there's like a million, so
Yeah, so I think actually giving up alcohol has been the biggest tool, if it is a tool, to support my own mental and emotional health and also to evolve my own spirituality. Like I have grown so much more and so much more quicker in the 20 years that perhaps came before that. But there's also other factors in that. It's not just about alcohol. Um, Getting up early, like the Soul Sanctuary Magical Mornings, I started doing that with my own community a year past January. And the intention behind that was to get myself out of my bed because I could sleep. I like my sleep. And I would get up at 8:30 or 9 every morning, maybe not 9, 8:30. But that's like not on, I don't want to be lying in my bed. I want to be up and enjoying the sun. So getting up early is good for me. Getting into nature, I absolutely love nature and practicing gratitude, being really intentional. Community is important to me as well. Like I love connecting with other people and I love sharing what I'm doing, creating spaces for people. That is really nourishing for me. Um, so yeah, it's just these kind of simple things like you might mentioned paddle boarding. I love going camping. I love getting outside. I love getting in the water. And these are all things that are really helping me find that joy again, post post drinking.
beautiful. And my podcast is still called Be Free. I'm maybe just going to leave it that way. Who knows? Maybe it'll change. But my one of my values is freedom. And I guess you've touched on that with your camping and stuff. But what gives you that sense of freedom in your life?
Um, Probably not working in a 9 to 5 job and being outside.
Mhm.
Like that, those two things is just, yeah, the 9 to 5. I often think, God, imagine myself back there in a shudder. Ugh, you
Yeah.
know. Yeah, there's actually one thing I want to share because it feels poignant for anybody listening. But I was in ceremony at the weekend, only on Sunday. And like I've mentioned to you that I've been tracking my nervous system. It's what we've been doing in Soul Sanctuary. And, and I've started to notice patterns of anger, which is fight or flight, patterns of collapse, which is checking out, shutting down, feeling down. And when I was in this ceremony, I had the realization that, or I received the message that my body is exhausted.
Mhm.
whilst I don't consciously feel this, like my intention going into the session was, why did I get so stuck? Like, why am I so stuck in many areas of my life? And it's because my body is exhausted through all the years of partying and drinking that I put it through. Because imagine the highs and the lows, fight or flight, collapse, fight or flight, collapse, fight or flight, collapse. That now my body's just like
Mhm.
done. And so what I'm doing is I'm overstimulating my nervous system through sitting on my laptop all night till I go to my bed. Work always on, working, sitting with my phone whilst I'm on the laptop, whilst the football's on in the background. Like I'm just so overstimulating myself. I'm reading 4 books. I'm listening to different podcasts and I'm listening to an Audible book. Like, no wonder I can't get anything done because my system's going too much, too much, too much, shut down. And that has been such a revelation that I would never have been able to see sober, that actually I now need to look after this nervous system that has been through all these frantic times, and to be mindful of the stimulation that I'm bringing in. And because it's all happening unconsciously, that my system's going, no, we're not doing this because you need to stop doing all the other things that you're doing. Like I've got about 30 tabs open on my screen here.
Mhm.
I jump from one thing to another to another. So I've really kind of put boundaries around my time and what I'm doing, and only doing 2 or 3 things, like one thing for business, one thing for personal development, and one thing for professional development. And that is all. And that has been like another mind-blowing experience where I'm like, wow, look what I've done to my body. And it's now actually just wanting to shut down when I give it all this overstimulation that is probably what happened when I was drunk. So that's what else is probably happening within many people's systems, and
Mhm.
they don't know it because we're so stuck in getting on it and being in the fear, getting on it, being in the fear, and that's highs and lows, isn't it? Which is
Yeah.
dysregulation.
Mhm. Oh, I cannot wait. Susan's actually going to come and stay with me in July. I cannot wait because I'm going to take you for a forest therapy session, just listening to you there, because that is the ultimate switch off
Yeah.
and nervous system reset of, yeah,
Yeah.
thing.
I know. I actually tested myself on both Saturday. I was out on Saturday with a friend and she said to me, you need to stop doing. This was before the ceremony. And she was like, I invite you to sit tonight for an hour and do nothing. And it was
Mhm.
really hard. And then on the Sunday after the ceremony, I was staying over. So there was nothing to do in the place I was at. All I had was my phone and the other person I was with. And I decided not to look at my phone, and I was really conscious of what was coming up in my body. It was like this urge to move forward, to move, to move. I was like, sit with it, sit with it, sit with it, because I have this habitual pattern of needing to be doing something, needing to be active. And I just need to stop that automatic response from happening. And that was also hard, when you're used to and you're programmed to go
Yeah,
always do, then this reversing and rewinding and restoring is actually not easy.
no.
But I'm learning and I'm growing as I'm uncovering more about myself. And this is the next iteration of me is doing less things and being
Yeah.
focused. And yeah, just carving out more time for forests, bathings and rests and doing nothing.
Yay. Yay. Oh, I think, yeah, so many people are going to resonate with what you're saying, myself included. Obviously I've experienced burnout many times and, been there. And yeah, that struggle with just kind of sitting with self. Obviously, I teach meditation as well, and that sitting with self can be so uncomfortable because we're so used to doing. I've actually, for my, I can't remember if I told you this, just having a little yap now on the podcast, but um, I for my forest therapy before I graduate, I've got to do 5 hours alone, no phone, myself in the forest, just being. So
I
I'm
did
quite
that.
intrigued to what arises from being there for that length of time and just, yeah, being.
I did that in a training I was with where we had to go into the forest and sit for 2 hours, and it was amazing. It was so.
Mm.
The other thing that, sorry, I know I keep rabbiting on other things. There's so much coming
No.
talking, but The other thing that I have a new awareness of out of drinking, so being sober, is how desperate I was when I was drinking, how desperate I just wanted to be part of something, to belong. I was single and I was looking for love in all the wrong places, connection in all the wrong places. And I look back on that version of me now with great, what would the word be? Not sadness, but just compassion for her and what she was going through. But I didn't see it like that at the time. It's not till I'm out of it and I look back and I'm like, she was really in quite a desperate place, really. Um, if I was to see my own child behaving the way I was, I would be like, right, girl, come on.
Mm,
Know it when you're in it. You really don't. You kind of need that clear head and space and time just to see
mhm.
and forget that time.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you, my love. So you've spoken about your tracker, so I think we'll hook that up in the link for that in the show notes so people can go and grab that themselves. It's Susan's outlined like how you do it. It's really, really helpful and supportive. I find it, and I know our Soul Sanctuary members have found it supportive as well. I'll put links to the Soul Sanctuary. Anything else, like Suze, what's the best way for people to connect with you?
So you can find me over on Instagram at I am Susan Findlay, or my website, susan-findlay.com. So yeah, just reached out to me in any of these channels and you'll find me there.
Perfect. So I'll pop all those links so you can go connect with Susan, give her a follow. She shares awesome wisdom on Instagram, really, really helpful, that I'm sure will support many of you. So go give her a follow, check her out. And yeah, anything else you want to add before we close off today?
I don't think so. The only other thing I would say that which just came to my mind there is there's so many sober groups now.
Mm.
We've tapped into that community a couple of times. There's Kirsty doing great things with Sober Buzz. There's a couple of guys down in London with Dry, but they're quite active up here and have a community up here. There is a Sober and Curious group in East Lothian. So there's loads of groups that you can tap into, or even if you are curious, just go into Facebook groups and just start sharing your desires, your concerns, all those kind of things, because that really helped us at the start was just to find that community and just to really keep us mobilized on the journey and hear other people's stories. So, if there's lots out there, and if anybody wants to know who I've gone and worked with, or not worked with, but been,
Yeah, like follow dirt. Yeah.
I'm more than happy to share those too.
Amazing. Awesome. Thank you. Yeah, I think that's something that's missing up here in the northeast of Scotland, but yeah, definitely.
Yeah.
I'm sure it will arise.
Yeah, it's been
So
great.
awesome. Thank you so, so much for being here, my love. We could just like chat all day and we would, and
Yeah.
have been before this podcast. So thank you for being here. I'll pop all Susan's details below and I will speak to you soon.
Thank you. Bye.